What is up, everyone? This is Dimensions of the Supernatural. I'm Maureen Grudzinski, and this is my great co-host, Anthony Simonelli. We are here for yet another episode of our show. We have an awesome guest with us tonight. His name is WES COLEMAN. We are bringing him in right now. Hey, Wes, how's it going?
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
We are doing great.
Awesome.
How are you?
Thank you, buddy.
Very good.
So, Wes, your team is called C.O.P.S. We have a lot of people we know that are cops. My husband is one of them. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how the name started?
Yeah, so I put together a team back in, I think it was around 2011, 2012, of correctional officers, and hence C.O.P.S, Correctional Officers Paranormal Society.
Nice.
And I've been interested in it a long time. Always wanted to form my own team, but was a little kind of tentative about forming a team of correctional officers because I wasn't sure how other people would react to it once I addressed some of the guys at work. I was on the emergency response team, retired from it now, so that's like the riot team, and I addressed my wants in during a team meeting one day, and I thought, okay, this is either gonna, make me popular or it's gonna sink me. But three guys came forward, and that's how C.O.P.S started.
So, did they previously have activity around them? Was it something that they saw in the jail system?
Some of them, yes. They've always been interested in it from like a young age too. And like me, you're a little tentative about sharing your desires and hobbies with regards to, the paranormal, aka supernatural. Because you're not really sure how you'd be taken, because a correctional officer field, just like police officers, it's full of guys that are technically oriented and evidence oriented, and like want the hard facts, and the paranormal is so up in the air, nobody knows, and it also has that stigma attached to it too, that some people kind of think is you're weird or you're a nerd. So it was a bit of a difficult thing to get started, but I was really surprised at the three guys that stepped forward, and that's how it started.
Did you think that they would be like the last three to step up?
No, I didn't think so. I knew one of them was interested. The other two, I was pretty surprised, but they also had a bit of a religious background too, so I'm not surprised that they did step forward.
Okay.
That's awesome. And how did you get started in the paranormal?
Well, that's officially when I got started in the paranormal. I've always had different things happen to me from a very young age. Nothing kind of over the top or anything like that, but when I was younger, in grade 3, I think that's when it all started. We had like a book fair. Do you guys remember the old book fairs in school? I don't even know if they have them anymore. But
they do.
They do, yeah.
And for those of your viewers who don't know, I'm from Canada. So the very first book that I actually I read was this, Some Canadian Ghosts, and I still have it from grade 3.
Oh, wow.
It really stirred my imagination, and I was really interested at some of the stories and wondering if they were just fabrications or just stories. But then I actually contacted a couple of people that were in the book, and they said that they were actual stories of people that encountered the paranormal. So it really, I mean, this is of course years later, but I've always been interested since day one with reading that book.
Yeah.
That's a really cool way to, to start out, because a lot of times kids are told, you're just seeing things, or, go back to whatever you were doing and just pretend you didn't see it. And they're
Mhm.
not addressed, I think. And I think, Anthony, you've said this before, that,
Mhm.
parents should talk to them about it and tell them that it's, scientific, and that they should be addressed in that way instead of
Mhm.
making them more afraid.
Yes, instead of
Exactly.
dismissing them from the issue.
And
Yeah.
the kids are so innocent, right? They pick up on
Yeah.
so much more stuff where we tend to dismiss things,
Mhm.
just being adults and having our life experiences. Like I'm sure you guys are well aware, kids and animals for that matter too pick up on things
Yeah. Yeah.
that we would normally dismiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My son had abilities as well. And, we talked about things and we watched things, and it wasn't just, scary movies. It was also documentaries, and I explained the science behind it to him. And now he has 2 children and they have abilities as well. So now he's not telling them, cover your eyes, or it's scary, or keep the light
Mhm.
on, or whatever. He's explaining to them that they're also people. They don't have their meat suit.
Right.
Yeah.
And how is your husband open to that as well?
Yeah. I mean, he's not my son's father, but he's always been very interested in those things, and he's always watched, documentaries or the haunting shows, or whatever. But he does go in more skeptical, obviously, and he
Mhm.
does detective work to try to rule things out. But um, you know, we've investigated even with Anthony, and
Mhm.
they've gone together, and I've gone my separate way, and he's very analytical and logical first to try to rule things out, but he's a believer. He believes in these things.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anthony, do you think he's more um like analytical and logical than we are, or do you think that he's got a healthy dose of skepticism?
I think that he doesn't have like, because we see things and stuff, so we're open to it more. He goes into it. Todd, the husband, Todd goes into it like not a skeptic totally, but he goes into it with an open mind, and works it if it's questionable or it's not. So he goes into like a cop.
Yeah. But he
Yeah.
doesn't ever
Yeah.
not believe me, or he doesn't believe,
Yeah.
not believe Anthony
Just
or
dismiss it. Yeah.
the Coco Tylos. Like, he actually had his first real experience where he could hear it himself. We were standing in our kitchen. I was washing dishes. He came in to talk to me, and he said something, and all of a sudden we both heard a woman
Yeah.
go, "Hey." And we went at the same time, and I said, "You just turned at the same time." And he said, "I just heard that." Like, it was really interesting. So he's actually starting to, like, hear things. I think, I don't think there's necessarily, I don't even know if there's a veil anymore at this point, but he definitely is sensitive. Animals come right up to him. He has deer come up and eat right out of his hands and whatever. But
He's like
I think,
Cinderella.
yeah, well, Snow White, is it Snow White? But
Snow White, yeah.
I think police officers or correction officers, I think they definitely choose that job because they have an intuition that is so high frequency. And,
Mm-hmm.
there were some incidents where he's told me that someone was ready to, pull a gun right in his face, and he knew before it was going to happen. That comes with the job, but I think that there's definitely a high intuition there as well.
That's a great point, actually. Same thing with me. Like when I go through the gates at work, I know if something's wrong. Like I immediately know if something's going to happen, or
Mm-hmm.
generally, it's just a feeling comes over me, and I know, like, the shit's going to hit the fan, so to speak. So
Yeah.
it's just a feeling that you get, and it's really good to have. And I think that, you know, it takes years to develop that, as in the paranormal. When I first started doing the paranormal, it was, you know, I was all about the evidence. I wanted to get some sort of clear evidence that, you know, the paranormal existed. But then I realized there's a lot more to it than that. And as you said, it has to do with that intuition thing. Like, you walk into a place and you get a feeling of the place, and if something's going on, and every room that you go into. But this isn't like, this is something that's developed. It's like a personal evolution of detecting the feelings in certain places. Because at the beginning, I was so buried in my equipment. And then I realized after a while, like, I'm missing a lot of things here. I need to open myself up a lot more to what's going on around me. And, you know, after like 6, 7, 8 years, I started to really understand it a lot more, and realize that there's a lot more than just the physical evidence, and the science. There's a whole nother dimension to it, so to speak.
Yeah. See,
So
I always said, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So I always said that your intuition is the best tool you got. You have all this equipment, but in your intuition, not only in paranormal, in daily life, you feel something's not good, you don't do it. You know, your intuition. And I mean, you got a million on the investigation. You got to have a million pieces of equipment, but what's best is how do you feel? What's feeling to you? If you're feeling sorrow, if you're feeling something that comes to you, your intuition, like, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe, hey, maybe this person, they do want to be investigated. But your best tool in anything is your intuition. So,
and that's a great point, because the other thing too is that when you start experiencing that stuff, you have to realize why you're in the paranormal. Like, why am I studying the paranormal? Am I trying to prove something to somebody, or am I trying to prove something to myself?
Yeah.
And at the beginning, it was always trying to prove, get my evidence and prove it to other people. And then I realized that's not good for me. Like, because everybody's gonna find some sort of fault in it, which is fine, and that's, they're more than welcome to do that. But I'm now into the paranormal to prove stuff to myself. So personal experiences are like number one to me. And and then I share my stories with people, and then if they believe it, that's great. And then if they don't, that's fine too. It's totally up to them. But I know why I'm in it, right?
That's right.
And it becomes more fun that way.
Mm-hmm.
When you're especially when you're with like a group of friends and you're investigating, and you're not trying to prove to someone else by, recording something and trying to get that major thing that you're going to put on Facebook to show everyone else. I've even forgotten to record now, or like take pictures. I'm now, playing games with the spirits. We started playing trivia with them the last time we were out someplace, and it's so much fun that I'm just having a blast with everyone else, and just playing the game.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Like you said, at the beginning, I tried to prove to everybody that I wasn't crazy. Let me get something. And then I was like, I don't care. I'm really trying to prove to myself that I'm not crazy, or what I'm seeing is really there. Because, you see it as a young kid, and you go through the years, and you want to prove to yourself, like, okay, I did see something. All right, there is something there. You just try and prove to yourself. And then now I'm at the age, nobody believes me.
Did you figure it out yet, though?
This is what I say.
Anthony, did you figure it out yet?
No, that is the Italian way.
Notice he's not answering me, though.
I didn't hear you. Hold on.
I said, did you figure it out yet?
Did I figure it out? No. If I figured it out, I wouldn't have to go anymore.
No. Did you figure out if you were crazy yet?
Oh, no. That I think I proved that many times over with people.
I think we're all a little bit crazy,
I mean, I mean, to go out to at nighttime, sitting in a cold place where there's rain, mud, and you're freezing your ass off, and try and record. Is anybody here? You're nuts. You know what I mean? We're the only ones who pay to go to haunted locations. Or stay in a hotel. People go to hotels. I'm going to a hotel, warm and everything. We go to a hotel to get ghost.
Yeah.
So
That's the best way to do it. You don't have to camp out. You don't have to get rained on. You don't have to freeze to death or be around spiders and snakes.
Exactly. That would be a Bigfoot issue, right?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah. I mean, my days camping out in cemeteries are over. Well, no, I still probably go do more cemeteries at night. I wouldn't mind doing that still. But you get to an age like, I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying the people I'm around, and that's it. And that's another thing. We get into this field, and you don't realize there's so many people that has the same experience as you, and then you friend them, and you got friends. It's like it's weird how it works. How you end up with a group of people that have like-minded with you. And how
they're all
many years?
just as crazy.
Yeah. And how many years have you been around West? People's like, you're nuts. And then you get a group of people like, that means we're all crazy. Let's hang together. We're
sure.
a bunch of sorted nuts.
Absolutely.
So
that's why we love them so much, because they're just as crazy as we are, and we have a blast.
Yeah. But I just seen you at Fort Mifflin again.
I have to let my dog in before he breaks the door down.
Yeah, I was in Fort Mifflin on the weekend. Was helping with an event there of Greg O'Brien's. He was having a public paranormal night at the fort, which was sold out. The Peaches, the Paranormal Peaches, were there doing their thing, and I was just kind of helping them out. It was an incredible night. The weather was absolutely amazing. No bugs, which I shouldn't say no bugs. There were little bugs, but bearable. Like sometimes Mifflin can be pretty unbearable with the mosquitoes, but it was a great night. And it was really funny. I call them kids, but they're probably around 18, 19 years old. There was 4 of them there, and they'd watched the shows, on TV, and they thought, they'd go out and see what it was like, and they thought it was like a pretty big joke at the beginning. They thought it was all kind of not real, and then they had an experience in one of the casemates there, and I'll never forget. They asked a question, and I'll never forget their eyes. Like they were like saucers. They were so big, and they were you could tell that they weren't prepared for actually seeing or feeling something. And they had some, I'm not exactly sure what, but they did have some sort of an experience in casemate number 5 there. And it's so good to I know that they were a little bit afraid, but it's so nice to see the younger generation kind of catch on to it and be interested in it. And you try your best to tell them the right way to do investigations, and to respect who you're talking to, and it's nice to get them, to try to get them on the right track at the beginning, because I mean, both of know that when you're out with some people, they just have no idea what they're doing, and they can coax spirits and be very negative towards spirits, and they can cause a lot of crap. And I think it's important to kind of nip that in the bud when they're younger. Joe, I don't know, Jody Nettles. She does a summer program for kids in the paranormal, but they're a little bit younger. I think that they're 16 or so.
I think Ernie, what's his name?
Ernie Atwell, yeah.
Yeah, Atwell and stuff. Yeah, I've seen. As a matter of fact, I looked at their program. It's a pretty good program for kids.
it's excellent, and I believe they visited the fort at one point, and they go to, they've been to Penhurst every summer. They go to a different place, and it's I just love that. I really love to see somebody, really take take the whole kids by the hand thing and show them what it's all about, and so that they can become good investigators and not bad ones.
That's whenever I do any, like at Gettysburg or any of the events I do, and I like talking to the kids because with their experiences, just to talk to them and give them advice and stuff. I mean, over the weekend I did this investigation. My brother invited me with his friends, and so I went, and there was this girl there. She must have been about 10 years old. She was there with her mother, and they can't. And the little girl question after question, and she was doing EVPs, and she went off with my brother's little team because they broke us up into little groups, and she was asking questions and getting answers, and they were doing it the right way, But she started getting to the paranormal through one of the TikTok, I'm not saying which one, people, and I'm like, oh, okay. But she got into it, and she knew how to answer questions and stuff. So I don't think as bad as it, could have been. They're learning from other people, like, that does it for pleasure, than for what we do for like the research. But
at least she was doing it correctly, learning it from TikTok.
Yeah, and she was doing it correctly, and I was impressed. I told the mother, because the kid, she's 10, if she has any questions, I, give me the information, come talk to me, hit me up on Facebook or something, because it's important. It's very important to have these kids do the right way. And hey,
yeah, and also too, most of those kids have had some kind of experience over the course of their, short lifetime. And it's also good to be able to give them a voice too, and ensure that they don't think that they're crazy, because there are people that would tell them that, and parents included, if they don't believe. So it's always good to let them know that they're not alone in their experiences.
Like as growing up as kids, we at times had experiences, and you're like, what was that? And you had nobody to talk to. So that's why I try to talk to them, and apparently, you do too. Because it's important. It's important
Absolutely.
to let them know. So I'm trying to do comments, but we had a little venture recently. The couple of days to Shanley and Fort Mifflin. That was pretty awesome. You're coming down to the England with the Brits.
Yeah, with the Brits. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, last week we had Penny on.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, I missed that because that was the day I was on my way down there. So I missed the interview. But Penny is she's an awesome individual. Both Penny, and Rachel. I mean, you know them now, and it's so nice to be able to integrate some of the people that are in England into North America, right? Like, and get those connections going, so that if you guys decide one day you want to go to England to investigate, people, right? And they'll set you up with a place. They're amazing individuals.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my canoe out and just start paddling across the pond.
Yeah, it might take you a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get there someday.
Yeah.
Just
remember how to say tomato over there.
Yeah, it's tomato, not tomato.
Not tomato.
And it's coffee, not coffee.
We say coffee here.
It's coffee.
In PA, we say coffee.
Yeah.
So, I know you're doing what do you call it? I see you going down to Fort Mifflin a lot, but have you done any? I see your team. Well, your team has done stuff in Canada. We know everything over here in the East Coast. down over here on the New England area and stuff. But up in Canada, what have some of the places you have done that
Well, we have old forts as well. Like we have a place called Fort Henry, which is in Kingston, Ontario, and it's a War of 1812 fort, so not as old as Mifflin, which is Revolutionary War, but still quite a haunted location. And actually, the Ghost Hunters did an episode there as well. So it's an interesting place, and also Canada's oldest prison, which was decommissioned in 2014, Kingston Penitentiary, is very similar in a lot of ways to Eastern State Penitentiary, just a bit smaller. But again, a very haunted place. There's things going on there, lots of shadows. Unfortunately, you can't do investigations there, but I have a little bit of an in being a correctional officer, so I've been able to get in there a couple of times on my own, which has been fantastic. But we also had C.O.P.S. We had an old military base that turned into an asylum. That we used to do the paranormal event for. The asylum closed in 1999, and the base actually closed in 1967. So it has a lot of history to it. A lot of things happen there. But they've recently, last summer, I believe, some corporation has bought the property and are making a subdivision up there. So I'll be really interested to see the experiences people have there after homes get built there.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
For sure.
That sounds like a really cool location. There's so much history, and it was used for different things. There's a lot there.
Well, we had so many things happen there. Everything, I mean, honestly, we wouldn't even have left the place if we didn't have to give it up. We had several public investigations there, and we did a TV show there, and it was just amazing. Just a great location. But we've been a lot of places in the States too. We were at Moundsville, West Virginia State Penitentiary, Ohio State Reformatory. We do enjoy the older prisons, and because the atmosphere is interesting when we go into an old prison. Either the energy level is off the charts and we're always getting stuff going on, or else it goes really, really quiet.
Because they're scared of you.
I beg your pardon?
Because they're scared of you.
Yeah, they're intimidated. Yeah. However, that being said, it can be just the opposite. They can be like, throwing things at us. We see a lot of activity. So one of the things that we do is we do a mock count up. So in a prison, every day there's 5 or 6 counts, depending on the institution, where you have to count the inmates to make sure nobody's escaped. Mm-hmm. So, part of that process is yelling, count up, all inmates return to their cells. And then that's how we do it. And you have to kind of yell it out. So we do this kind of mock count. And it's interesting to see how the place reacts to that. I mean, every prison's different, but sometimes like you just get flashes of shadows everywhere, like they're moving. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting, that's just one of the methods that we use as corrections officers. Yeah, but people that we've been with have been very interested in some of the things that we do.
Yeah, something like that is it's good that you reenact of a day in the life of a prisoner. So if anything's there, they're going to respond to what you guys are doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. We had something similar happen when we were in Gettysburg. We went to, it was a house that was like I think they call it the old field hospital, but it's a house.
Yep.
And when we first went in, it was dead silent. Nothing was happening. So my husband started speaking, and you can hear, like, they used it, just a radio, and it was flipping through. And when he started to speak, he mentioned that he used to be a sergeant for the Department of Defense Police. So he mentioned that he was a sergeant. Immediately they started to talk to him because they were afraid that if they didn't respond back to him, that they were going to be disciplined. So they wouldn't speak to me. They wouldn't speak to our daughter. They would only respond to him. So if I had a question, I would tell him what to say. He would ask them and they would respond back. They talked the entire time that they were downstairs. They told him what they had eaten, what it was like there, what the last battle was that person was in. They gave their name, their rank, their last name. We got so much information. We were able to find it online. So they weren't lying about anything. He said, okay, so, we talked enough. We're going to go upstairs into the attic. They warned him not to. It was really weird. And they sounded terrified. He said, we're going to go upstairs, but we'll come back and talk to you. They said, don't go, Sergeant. It's a warning. We went upstairs. It was all little kids' toys. We were told that there was something up there. And our daughter at the time was maybe 14 or something. And she was kind of standing on, like, behind me. And then there were the stairs to go back down. And he said, if something's here, roll a ball to me. And I said, are you a child? And I heard, yes. And I said, are you a male or a female? And a male voice growled, little girl. And something grabbed my daughter by the arm, and it was hot and it burned her. And she grabbed me and freaked out and almost threw both of us down the attic steps. And that was it. We were done for the night. She was terrified, didn't want to go back upstairs. Then he was on the move. I'm going to kill it. Whatever it did, I'm going to kill it. I said, you do realize it's dead already, right? Like, he was ready on a warpath. He was going to kill whatever was there. She was done for the night. She was terrified. I was just wanting to get more investigation going. But that's really true. Like, whatever you do, if you go to a school and you were a teacher, they're going to respond to that if they're students. Like, whatever your craft was, that's what you use. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Todd and Carmela say, I'm a vocational teacher for New Jersey DOC and have talked with officers, and they have told me stories of various paranormal activity that happened when on third shift.
Yeah, Todd, he works for the court system. Yeah, he's a teacher, and he teaches vocabulary, whatever. But he's at the courts all the time. I guess he talks to all the shifts, And when you're on the job, are you still on the job? Or are you retired by now?
No, I'm still plugging away. I got a couple more years left.
Okay, figure you would be still on the job, but you have any experiences on the job? Any kind of paranormal experiences that you came across? Yeah, I mean,
nothing too out of the ordinary. I get a lot of stories from people that have had experiences.
Okay.
One of them is from one of the officers is from that used to work at Kingston Penitentiary before it closed down. Would have different things happen to him, and people always say, like, well, why doesn't that stuff happen to me? I think you're full of crap. Why doesn't that happen to me? Well, there's some people that are obviously a little more open to it than others. And then there are some people on the reverse side of the coin that are just closed off to it. And, so there are people that the ones that are open to it experience a lot more. And this specific gentleman who has no interest in being a paranormal investigator has just shared his experiences. He's now in his 60s and retired. would tell the story of working a range at Kingston Penitentiary, and all of a sudden he looks out on the floor and it's all wet, and this is like during a midnight shift, and he can't figure out why it's all wet. Well, one of the cells has they all had a little sink and a toilet in it, and one of the empty cells, for whatever reason, the tap turned on and it started overflowing and going out into the hallway. And within an hour's time, because we generally walk every hour, the amount of water that congregated on the floor was, about an inch to 2 inches. And he had no idea, until he started doing his walk, like, where's all this water coming from? And this is at 2 or 3 in the morning, so nobody has touched that tap. It's in a locked cell. And then he experienced a man hovering over him as well. He was doing his reports one night at his desk, and he just felt like he was being watched. And he looked up into the corner of the office that he was in, and he just saw just the face of this man looking at him from the corner of the room. So a midnight shift, in the office, we just have like a little lamp that's on the table when we do our reports, and then the rest of the office is fairly dark. There's not many windows in the institution, so it is fairly dark, and he could see this face, just the face, no body or anything like that, staring at him as he was doing his work. And he, obviously was quite horrified at what he saw. And when he went to look at it again, it had faded or disappeared. So, but he was very sure that that's what he saw. So, and he's an officer of integrity. So I believe what he said.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. I mean, being an officer, you must have people come up to you all the time, telling you different stories too. I mean, I know you said before, the location you're at, are people coming in and, telling you any stories, or that everybody's keeping it quiet?
Well, I work at a relatively new institution. It was built in 1995. That's not to say that age really has anything to do with anything, because we've had several deaths at our place. Actually, just not even just before I went to Philly, I worked on a guy that died of a massive heart attack. But it wasn't anything that was it was a natural death. It wasn't somebody that was assaulted or anything like that. But these things go on quite regularly, because we have a lot of older people in our place as well. I'm in an institution where I'm at the end of my career, so I'm not as into the high acts of places like maximum security prisons where there's stuff happening all the time. I'm just getting to the end of my career. So the place that we're at, there's a lot of older offenders who are might be in there for life, and they end up obviously dying at some point. And so I mean, this happens, and we've had a few overdoses too at our place, and but nothing like, no violent deaths at our place.
Yeah, I mean, if your person has life in jail, and that's all he knows, he's there for God knows how many years. After he passes, that doesn't mean he's going to be going. That's all he knows. He might just stay there, Yeah,
and really imprints on a cell too. So if a guy has been in a cell for 20 years, and that's his home, it's going to leave an imprint. Most of our place is made of limestone, and I don't know if I'm sure you guys are well aware of the stone tape theory. So that imprinting happens quite a bit. in a place that has limestone. And actually, Kingston Penitentiary is a great example of that. It is entirely made out of limestone, walls included. So there's a lot of interesting activity there as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. The guy's on that his cot for 20 years, and now he's gone, and some other guy comes in there. I mean, does any of the inmates say anything, or they complain, or they want to get moved because there's some kind of activity in their cell, and they just want to get out of their cell, or just
it doesn't happen often. Usually when somebody dies in a cell, we usually keep it vacant for anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, which, I mean, really probably doesn't do anything, but it gives the the atmosphere time to clear. But there has been we have some native offenders in our place who they have a high rate of suicide in Canada, and they have their own kind of specific area in our prison where they live together. And one inmate refused to go into the cell that one of the previous native offenders had committed suicide. And that wasn't because he experienced anything, but he just didn't feel right about it. And sure enough, another offender went into that cell and complained that the light was coming on all the time in the night. So, I think there is a degree of, as with anything, like whether it be, children or animals or anything that dies, you have to give it time to reset, the atmosphere to reset. I always say to people come up to me and they'll go, oh, my dog passed away, and I can hear him in the hallway at night, or I can feel him on the bed with me. And generally speaking, out of all the cases that I've had with that sort of thing, it's the first 3 months where you'll have activity of a deceased animal, or even a human as well. Humans sometimes, as we know, spend a little longer in our world, but mostly the animals, within like 3 months or so, there's no more reports of things. So it's like, I don't know if it's the individual, the owner who's has the animal that is keeping them, not letting them pass on, or what.
They manifest their own.
Yeah, exactly. So and then they get used to it, and then the spirit passes on. Now, I mean, we don't really know, but that's been my experience.
Yeah. There's just many people like that. After that pet passes, I know myself too. I got experiences still with pets from the past. Because I'm sensitive, so I see things also, like Maureen and everything. But I sometimes people, even like I found that people have, you go in to try to help them in their personal house, and you just, whatever they're doing is, you just can't keep them getting away. I worked on a case 3.5 years, and we came to the conclusion that the person is like manifesting their own stuff. It's like, I send 3 people in to clean it, and it was a cleanse, and then all of a sudden it happens again, and then constantly over and over and over and over. So now you're feeling, is it a spirit, or is it what they're manifesting? And you try to help them and talk to them, but it's sometimes just can't do nothing about that. So when it comes to pets, or even people, sometimes they just manifest their own thing, and they don't want to let it go. As much as they keep on telling you they're scared of it, they just still want to let it go.
It may not even be that they're afraid of it, though. It may be that they want comfort and they don't want their loved ones to go away, so they manifest a tulpa or an egregore so that they have the comfort of their loved one, and it's not them. It's just kind of like a manifestation of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a thought form, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they could do it themselves, you know. So you know, so when people comes with animals and stuff like that, I mean, I could see that, you know, they manifest their own stuff at times. I'm trying
Right.
to experience. You want to put that up there?
Yeah. I didn't know if he could see it because he's on his phone. Todd and
can see
Carmela
it.
say, what is the most memorable experience from all investigations you have done?
Well, actually, the craziest thing that ever happened to me was, well, there's quite a few things, but the one that stands out most to me is I did an investigation on the Queen Mary back, and that was before I formed the team, so it was around 2009 or 2010.
Mm-hmm.
I was, if anybody knows about the Queen Mary, it was a ship that was used. It was primarily a cruise ship, but in World War II, it was a troop transport, and they actually ran into a smaller boat. Well, it was a troop transport and killed a number of people. So the so-called ghosts of that ship were encapsulated in the Queen Mary, amongst other things. They have like small children on there that are spirits. Just it's a crazy location. If you ever get a chance, I don't know if they do. I think they might do like a tour at night now, but I don't know if they do paranormal investigations. It was closed for a bit, but anyway. So I was investigating the first class pool area. Now, the biggest evidence there was a picture of a young girl on the slide of the first class pool, and it's a very famous photograph. But people have also experienced wet footprints
Mm-hmm.
near the first class pool. Now there's no water in the pool; there hasn't been in
Mm-hmm.
years, so it's an interesting thing. My experience was as I was in the change rooms, and so the change rooms are those the specific type of change rooms would have like it was a long hallway, and then on either side there were cubicles, but the bottom, like the first foot from the ground to the top of the cubicle was see-through, so you could see feet inside the cubicle, for example. So I got into one of the cubicles and I sat with my back up against the wall, and it was black dark. And I was sitting there doing an EVP session and being very, very quiet. And just like down, I could see this like light come from underneath the stall, like down probably 5 or 6 cubicles. I saw this light come on in the hallway at the very end. This light kind of form, and I kind of thought, like, did somebody like my first instinct was, yeah, I mean, you try to rational it right away, and you think, oh, did somebody turn on a light, or was it a flashlight beam, or what? Didn't really know, and just kind of passed it off for a few seconds until it started to move up the hallway. And what I saw was like the spider-like entity. I don't even know what it like. It was morphed. It had legs. Never really seen anything like it before. Just kind of float like along the tile floor in front of me. On the other side of the stall, I could see it crawl right out in front of me, and I was so like, I mean, so I'm fairly new to paranormal investigating at this point, so I'm a little freaked out at what I'm seeing. I'd probably be freaked out today if I saw it, but I had no idea what it was. And I remember I was just like, I was like kind of like not moving at all. I was right up against the thing, and I'm thinking, if I move or see, like I didn't think it saw me there, so I thought, if I move or breathe heavy or whatever, it's going to see me, and God knows what it's going to do. And so my heart's like pounding a million miles a minute, and this thing keeps going, and then gets to where the door is that goes out of the change rooms and goes right through the door.
That is
And
bizarre.
yeah, to this point, to this day, I have no idea what that was. It scared the living crap out of me. I didn't even want to get up. I was just like, I was in paralysis. I'm like, I just don't know what it was. And then
Like
probably
a
about,
creeper.
sorry?
Like one of those creepers.
Yeah, but it wasn't big. Like it was like when you hear about creepers, you hear them being quite large things. But this was like the size of my hand. Like that's
Oh,
about it.
really? Okay.
And yeah, it wasn't big at all. And yeah, somebody came in probably 15 minutes after that, and called out like, "Wes, are you in here? Wes, are you in here?" And I'm like, I didn't know. I was a little afraid, to say anything even at that point. And then they flipped the light switch, and I'm like, yeah, I'm right here, because I didn't want to move until those lights came on, and it was a crazy experience.
And Robin wants to know, was it black? You said it was a light form.
It was light, yeah. It was because I was in the dark, so all I could see was the actual light of this thing. Like, just, it was like this, like it was. I can't
Yes.
even.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I kind of
Well,
like.
you did
Whenever
better
I
than I would have.
sorry.
You did better than I would have. My first thought was, it's gonna eat me. I would
was
have been out of
cornered
there.
though. I had nowhere to go. I was right up against the wall, and I had like two cubicle walls on either side of me and a door in front of me. And I had nowhere to go. And so, like, I was basically cornered. And I was just, yeah, I couldn't move. I was complete paralysis.
Was it looking like a hand maybe crawling, uh, you know, on the floor? Like maybe a hand that was chopped
It,
or something
it
Oh,
like that? You
yeah.
know,
What was it,
it
that
wasn't
movie,
active.
Night of the Living Dead or something, where the hands running around the floor or something?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was kind of like that. It was kind
oh,
of
the
like
Addams
that.
Family.
yeah, like
Yeah,
cousin, what do you call it? The what
cousin it.
cousin it? Yeah, it is. So the cousin it was in the hand or no?
No, cousin it
The,
was the
the
guy
hand
with the.
was
No, it was.
somebody
Somebody
It
out
was.
else.
there knows.
It was an
Somebody in
Adam.
the chat room.
Yeah, because I mean, it wasn't an accident. People, it did hit another boat, so maybe there was dismemberments of different body parts. Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe, thing.
Right.
Thank you, Robin.
thing,
Thing.
thing. And it was
Yeah.
all. It was like all just like like a hand shaped light bulb, just like running around.
Yeah, it was, but it
Got it.
wasn't really. I mean, I call it a hand, but when I couldn't really focus in on it because of the light, right? The light that was being emitted from it kind of obscured the actual,
The
um,
movement.
the detail, because it
Right.
was it was glowing.
Yeah.
Um, but it was just, yeah, I can't even. I can't see it being a hand. It seemed more like a creature in its movement.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was probably my craziest experience.
That's
But I've
wild.
had some different ones over the years. I've investigated all through England with with my friends from the UK there, and had some interesting experiences there as well. I don't know if anybody's heard of the Monroe House in Indiana. Outstanding location. I'm telling you, the stuff that goes on in that house is out of this world. The Bel Air House in Ohio, just another incredible location that I've had a lot of experiences with. I on my own, I was working with Richard Estep, the paranormal author, for quite a bit. I did some of his research and some of his books. So I'm in a few of those. But that was just on my own kind of thing. So I went to some
Mhm.
really amazing locations with him. So yeah, it's been a very eventful career, if you want to call it, so far.
Yeah, it
That's
sounds
like,
like you're having a good time doing it too.
to say the
Absolutely.
least.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
I mean, I know with the um, thing that was your experience, but all the other locations, what was most scariest that you like thought about maybe I should leave, or you're like me and just run into it even further.
Yeah, like did you ever bail or did you stick it out?
On the Queen Mary?
Like
No,
any
or-
place
any?
that-
I think the only time I really, I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty cool-headed. There were a couple of instances where I went to a place called Randolph County Infirmary. I don't know if you've heard of that place.
Mm-mm.
I had something push me there when I wasn't expecting it. And I didn't really get to the point where, I wanted to leave, but I got extremely angry very quickly. And that's unlike me. I'm a very level-headed person. I'm pretty laid back. Friends of mine will tell you in the chat room that, for the most part, I'm pretty quiet kind of guy. But something pushed me there, and it just immediately got my back up. And I'm like, okay, who just did that? And I got, a lot more animated than actually just saying that, if you can imagine. But I was very taken off, and it wasn't such a push where it pushed me down, but it was enough of a good little, when you get pushed and you're not expecting it, you kind of get ticked off, right? And
yeah.
so that was I won't forget that place, because that was interesting. I've never had that happen to me. I've never had a scratch or anything like that. That was kind of the first physical thing that ever happened to me. Now the probably the place that I had, like, where I wanted to leave was I was in this 17th century prison in England investigating. It's called Bodmin Jail, and it's in Cornwall, England, which is like the southwest of England. And the person that was showing us around, at one point in the evening, she took us into this cell, both Richard and I, and started talking about who the person was in that cell. And she described the guy as, being very large, bald head, and very, like, not very bright, I guess is the best way to explain it. Like, he couldn't talk or anything like that. And as she's explaining this isn't
Maureen, no, it's not me, Maureen. Maureen's thinking that's me.
Oh yeah. No, this
Describe me.
guy
That's not
was.
me, Maureen.
Oh yeah, no, this guy was a lot like. I mean, yeah, this guy's a lot scarier than you, Anthony. I mean, not much, but maybe. But anyway, no, he. So she's talking about him, and it's a very low light in there, and all I could see is the outline of her body. We both, Richard and I, could just see the outline of her body. And as she's describing him, she's manifesting into him. Like we're looking, and I'm like, Richard, like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? And she's getting bigger, bigger, and bigger, and all you can see is the outline of this massive man, and apparently he was like 6'6" or big guy, bald hair, very like she was describing him as we were like standing there. And I don't know if we were manifesting, this, or because she had a lot of special abilities herself, and I don't know if she was actually doing it as well. But we're both seeing this at the same time, and it was like this guy come, and then he has this like deep voice, and then I was out of there. Like I was like, no, I'm not comfortable. So I just
weird.
Yeah, and then when
X-Men kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and then the lights came on and everything, and she was there. Like, it wasn't, the whatever was there was gone, and it was just a crazy experience.
Did you get any audio off that? Any EVPs or?
We got lots of audio. We got like a growl,
Okay.
But it was kind of indecipherable. But it was some sort of a growl, but I kind of think it was more like a "Urgh," like that, you know. But it was an amazing experience, but it freaked me out.
That would freak anybody out, I think.
That is wild.
When you said that it was a growl, it kind of reminded me of the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Actually, that's what I kind of thought too, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, you know. But he was smaller, right? Like he was kind of like,
I don't know what his height was, but he definitely was, you know, kind of hunched over, and that made him appear smaller, but he could have been huge.
Right.
No one ever said, you know, he stands 5'2" and is this size. His height was never given.
In my mind, it was kind of like, you know, Beauty and the Beast. It was like the Beast, you know.
The Beast. Yeah. That's interesting how that manifests in front of you guys too. You know, that's wild. You know, that usually is not a norm.
No.
You know? So to get something like that is wow.
Especially like for both of you to see it at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
So it wasn't that you were manifesting it, because it would be one of you manifesting, not both of you. Because one of you might think, oh yeah, I could see that happening and it would look like this. But for each, or if both of you were talking to each other about it at the same time, that could possibly happen. But both of you at the same time, that's super rare.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, she, you know, her name is Kirsten, and she had this ability and this aura about her. She was a witch from a very old family of witches, and she just had this aura and way about her that you just thought, you know, she had the ability to do anything, you know, like you generally felt like you were in the presence of somebody that was very supernatural, that could control things. And she's a very, very interesting individual. And she was she was in charge of the paranormal part of the old jail. So she would do like paranormal investigations, do tours, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think that, and a lot of people will, you know, agree with me in this, but people that are in a place for a long time, whether doing tours, like Greg O'Brien's a great example. He's at Fort Mifflin. He's been there a long time. Yeah. It's almost like the fort is a part of him, right? And the things that happen, there are specific things that happen at that fort, or in her case, at that prison, that probably wouldn't happen if they weren't there. Like they draw in the energy, because I think the spirits know that they're safe with them, because they've made kind of a pact. Or but it's interesting for sure. Even the owners of like haunted homes, like Kristen at the Bel Air House, and at the place in Indiana, the Monroe House there. I'm just trying to think of their name. I just slipped my mind, but it's almost like the place, they may think they have control over the house, but the house actually has control over them.
Because it knows them too well.
Yeah.
I think
that can be dangerous.
I think when you're around people as well, like, I don't think people know this, but if you're around someone who has abilities, and you're with them a lot, their abilities can kind of, if they're not guarded, you can kind of steal or borrow some of their abilities. If you already have some abilities, you can kind of take their abilities away, or, you know, use them. And people don't know that. You have to be very, very careful about, you know, who you let into your space and how open you are. And, you know, especially if you have some really interesting abilities, like your friend that you were talking about, that can be dangerous.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a good point.
So I
If
was
she,
thinking of one other thing at the Bel Air house. I was Richard and I were, and we were with another investigator. There's three of us, and we were doing an EVP session up in the attic. And this was late in the evening, probably around 2 a.m. And we just kind of felt like the spirits were sick of us, right? So
Mhm.
we said, like, do you want us to leave? Like, are you done with us or whatever? And no response or anything like that. And we tried and tried to get some sort of response over the next 20 minutes. Still no response or anything. So we thought, oh, like, it's quiet, so let's head downstairs. And when we get downstairs, all the doors are open in the house, and we never opened any of the doors. So we kind of thought that when it told us, when it didn't tell us, but when we asked, do you want us to leave? That's when the doors opened. That's what we're kind of thinking, because there was and we were like going through that house, like, because the Bel Air house is in not a great place. Like there's a lot of not so great people in the area, a lot of drug use, that sort of thing. And so we thought maybe somebody had tried to break into the house when we were in there. So we went like through the house like crazy,
Mhm.
and there was nobody in the house at all. So we don't really have an idea how that happened, because the doors were actually unlatched and opened up.
That's fine. Like they say, okay, goodbye. Click, click, click. Now get out.
Yeah.
So needless to say, we left after that, because I honestly believe, like, when you say or ask a question like that, you should do what they want you to do. And that's what we felt. They wanted us to leave, so we left, and we came back the next night. But yeah,
Yeah. I guess the spirits too. I mean, how many times these people go to these locations and they're there all night, and then the next day another group goes there. Next day another group goes there. Next day another group goes there. After a while, they're probably like, how many times are going to say my name? It's like, I
yeah.
need a break. I need to, just go away.
Well,
Just let us
well,
be.
that place in particular had a very negative energy to it. Like, there was
Mhm.
something it wasn't a nice energy in there. It was
Mhm.
it was a very bad feeling, like, the whole time I was there. I mean, I'm a correctional officer for the last 28 years, and I had to sleep with the light on. So, that's how bad it was.
The lights won't help you neither.
I know, but
The light, I mean, they could flip it off. Boop, I'm here.
yeah,
You know. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for you to feel that, because you, like we said before, you have that intuition in you. You have that, you could feel something's going to happen, and you got nervous. You left the light on. So you could feel it. Like when go to work every day, how it's going to be.
yeah.
You just by your feelings. So yeah, I think that that's why you left the light on, because you had that little nervousness.
And
That
I'm
just
sure both of you guys are the same way. Like, when you do an investigation, you get to a certain point where, like, inside your head, you're thinking the shit's going to hit the fan. Like, something's going to happen here. Like, you feel the pressure mounting up, and then all of a sudden, bam! Like,
yeah.
things just go unhinged, right? And you
Hmm.
get that kind of that. I consider myself empathic, so
Hmm.
I get that feeling. Like, I get that, like, explosive point where it's like, yeah, there's something's going to happen. Like,
Hmm.
something is going to happen, and it usually does. Not all the time, but usually something does.
Hmm.
Oh, we had a night like that. I yelled, "It's time to go. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go." And nobody listened. And I said, "We have to go right now, right now, right now, right now." And nobody listened. And then finally I said, "We have to effing go now." And then there was this boom of lightning. And there was this Native American woman singing outside, and there was no woman. And the house just went crazy, and everybody was screaming, "What's happening? What's happening?" And everyone just kind of slid down the banisters into the downstairs. And it was, Anthony, was it not nuts?
Yeah, it was. That was interesting that night.
It was very crazy.
I was already downstairs. You guys went on the invest. They were upstairs by themselves, and I was downstairs. I heard the girl, this Native American woman singing. I'm like, oh, okay. We were on a reservation.
We thought there was a party going on.
We thought,
outside.
And it sounded like this woman singing in the native tongue, and I'm like, that was interesting. And I'm like, oh, maybe so. I'm looking outside, and it was. And then everybody comes running down. I'm like, what's going on? It's like
I felt like I was hit by lightning. Like, you know, that static that runs down your spine, that feeling. I got that. But then I heard someone whisper in my ear, I'm going to effing kill all of you. And no one else heard it. And I was like, that's it. Everybody.
we can say where it was. He probably knows it. We could say
Yeah.
where it was. No?
Yeah.
I could say because I didn't say nothing. Oh, it was in Wildwood.
Oh, Wildwood, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I'm saying it. I didn't sign up.
Like the build up to that night was increasingly crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier.
There was a lot of activity going on with the people that were there. And it was a lot of activity clashing with people and feelings and all this other stuff. And it was a weird night, you know. I don't know if it was the place that's making it like us clash with each other, but
there was a particular spirit doctor that was there, and he was not great. It was just a bad thing.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was interesting.
So, like when you talk the spirit doctor, is this a physical person, or is this a spirit that was a spirit doctor?
It's a spirit that was a doctor. He was a bad person.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close this door because he's going to keep.
And that doctor, you know, he did the what do you call it? Oh man, I just went blank. You know, when they stick
he was
in
doing lobotomies, and he wasn't trained for it. Some doctor just came in and was like showing them how to do lobotomies. So after he showed them how to do it, this doctor was just like, okay, now I know how to do it. And you can hear, was it Anthony, you that you had it on like a recorder where you could hear a baby crying? You heard like that in the eye, and then wah. So doing lobotomies on babies after you just learned from watching one.
But
you didn't get that?
No, I think it was somebody else got
somebody
that.
else.
Yeah, I didn't get that. But the doctor that came in and showed him how to do it was affiliated with Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Okay.
And that doctor was the leading doctor in the country that did the most lobotomies on babies and going all the way up to old people. And he did it at the prison, but he went around the country showing other people how to do it. And this is one of the locations in New York he came up to and showed them how to do it.
I don't think Dr. Friedman was necessarily a bad person. I think that he was trying desperately to help people. But when he taught this other doctor was kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. Like he was seen by the people in the area as this amazing doctor, and he was a preacher and he was wonderful. But behind the scenes, he was like a madman. And was a Satanist and was, you know, just a horrible human being who was kind of like, who's the doctor from, from World War II that Hitler was having work on, like the twins and doing the experiments, and Dr. Mengele.
Yeah.
He was like him.
Yeah, he was doing experiments on people.
So we called him out on that and said, we know that you did and he got angry. And Anthony was awake and he heard him walking up and down the stairs and around
the area, walking second floor. And something kept on, I stayed on the first floor. I slept on the couch down there, and something kept on touching my toe. I think it was a little kid running back and forth, touching my toe. But yeah, that was an interesting night. You've probably been there, haven't you? Because that's so close to you.
I got to the Hinsdale. I haven't had the opportunity to get over there yet. It's definitely on my list. But you know, there are so many places to see in such little time. So
Yeah, I know.
definitely get a chance at some point, hopefully, to get over there. But yeah, that's not too far away from the Hinsdale, is it not?
No, it's right there. Matter of
No.
fact,
The people have-
they do a thing that you could do one night Hinsdale, one night there.
And
Right.
Wes, they're connected. When we were walking around the building, I came around the back, and I don't know if you guys were still eating or if you were doing something else, but when I came around the back, I looked at my husband and I said, "I'm getting something about a hanging tree." And he goes, "Oh, are you? Come inside. I'm going to show you something." And when I walked in the front door, there was a big branch sitting in the front door. And I said, "Before you start," I said, "I feel like there were benches or chairs here, like there were patients sitting waiting here, and that this front room was actually where the doctor checked the patients out. It wasn't up on the third floor where they have it set up," which was true. And he goes, "Well, now that you said that, this branch," he goes, "read it." And it said, "Hanging Tree, Hinsdale House," and there was a date on it. So Dan gave it to Brooke, and it was part of the hanging tree from the Hinsdale house.
Wow.
I had no idea. I didn't even know that there was one. But then when he said that, all of a sudden I got like a flash, and it showed me the property from the Hinsdale house, which I hadn't been to. And there was a hanging tree, and I see this woman hanging.
Wow.
Very
That's
weird.
incredible.
This place is, you have to go there and just like take it. I would like meditate on it, suck it all in, and go there and see what you get yourself. It's a crazy my husband had a temperature gauge, and he was going around the house. He found this little room we didn't even know about. There was a hand even bigger than his, and he's got huge hands, and the temperature was high. It was a hot hand. And he's like, "Guys, was anybody down here before?" And we're like, "We didn't even know about the room." He went the next day, took, a picture of it again. There were rosary beads hanging over it. Weird. And the next day, the hand was in a different position, same size, still there.
Wow.
Very weird. You would love it. You would love this place.
Definitely have to try to get there for sure. Another one of the locations I love, I don't know if you guys have been, is Wilson Castle.
No, I haven't, but yeah, that's one of the places I like to go.
It's such a beautiful place, and the feeling there is not negative at all. Like I know there's a lot of people that kind of go after the always places that are haunted are negative. They have negative energy. But there are places you go to and you just feel like so much love. Like, when I went to Wilson Castle, it just made me
like
feel
home.
so incredible. I beg your pardon?
It felt like home. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't go in because it was closed when I was there. I was at a friend's house who didn't live too far from there. And we just went there and we kind of like walked around the property, and we went up on the porch, and it felt like home. Like I felt like I had lived there before in a different lifetime. It just felt comfy.
Safe.
Yeah. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah, if you get an opportunity, I did an event up there with Kelly Miller 2 years ago, I think it was, and we had quite a lot of people out. They had a it was in October, so they had like a I wouldn't classify it as a haunted house, but they did it up so that it was a little more kind of eerie to walk through at night. Like there was lots of pumpkins, and it was just it was a different kind of atmosphere than what it normally would have been. And I think it just charged the energy that night. But I still, even after all of that, I didn't feel the slight bit negative at all. Like it was you know, there are upper floors to that place that people are a little spooked out about, but I never found that place like that at all. I really enjoyed it, and it was like a magnet, and it kept on. It didn't want me to go. Like it kept on wanting to come back, you know. And the further you got away from it, the further, you know, the magnet couldn't get a hold of you, you know, to draw you back. But it was when I was there and I left on Sunday. I didn't want to leave. Like it was just so, I was so into that place. It was just beautiful.
It really is a stunning place. I would love to see what it's like inside.
Yeah, a lot of events that go on up there. So, yeah, no, I will get up there.
Yeah, I really find it interesting how, and I know scary and evil kind of sells, you know. I mean, you watch the TV shows and, you know, it's usually some sort of evil entity or something that's going on.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we kind of close the door on places that actually have good things happen. And I mean, we used to do quite a few residential cases, and I had this one woman call me one day, and she lived in this old mill that was turned into a house, and she said like her husband had died probably a year before, and she says I keep feeling like my husband is beside me in bed, like I wake up in the night and like I feel like he's right there, that like the bed is depressed in certain spots, and I just feel he's around. And I said, well, like what, like are you afraid? And she says, well, at the beginning I was afraid, but now like I'm feeling like comfortable, and it's nice to feel that he's around. And I said, well, you don't want me to come up and change that, you know, like if you feel comfortable, it likely is your husband and he's waiting for you. And if it's giving you comfort, then just leave it that way, unless you know it changes, or, you know, I mean, we all know that things may not be what they are. But she always felt that that it was him, and so I just said, you know, just leave it. And if things change, or you feel like, you know, you're being threatened or something's going on, well, then call me back for sure. But never heard again from her. So
yeah, sometimes they feel comfort in that, you know.
Exactly.
And like you go into a location, they're scared, and then you go in and you get evidence, you get like EVP or just a spirit box or whatever you may be, and then they're like, that sounds like my husband or my wife, or sounds like my mother. And and then it's like, what do you want us to do? No, if it's them, leave them. You know, because they feel more comfort if it's their family there. They don't care what happens at that point. It's like they feel it's like their mother or their brother, whatever, a family member, and I just leave them. As long as I know it's not there's something there that's going to try to hurt me or anything, you know, and it's family, leave them alone.
And it's so funny that we're like that.
A lot of that, you know.
If it's any other ghost, it's you know, heart stopping. If it's Nana or grandma or mom or dad, leave them alone. They're okay. They're not scary at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's how it is.
It's kind of nice though, like, you know, to draw, you know, I've always been a firm believer to share not only experiences, you know, most people ask me, oh, what's your scariest experience, like somebody tonight did. But, you know, there's also a lot of good experiences out there, like that make you feel good. And people often, you know, mistake it for something that's evil, or something that's you know, of negative energy. And I think it's really important to educate people that it's more than just that. There's so much more than that.
Yeah. I did an investigation at this private home, and I was doing the spirit box, and I set the spirit box up, got a camera on it, and I'm sitting there, and it was an old woman. She was an older woman. She was like 86 years old, and her daughter was in her 60s. And they were in the house. I was there with a psychic and someone else. and we're sitting, and I'm recording, but I have the woman off camera and I have the daughter off camera. And we're doing. I said, I'm gonna put the spirit box on. I put the spirit box on. The first thing that comes is, so the psych goes, "Is anybody here? You want to give us your name?" And all of a sudden, Walter. I said, Walter. The woman, the 80-year-old woman, that's my father. That's my father's name. And the granddaughter's, and I guess it was the granddaughter, her daughter's like, that's grandpa. That's grandpa. He built this house. He actually physically built the house when it first got there. It was like in Farmingdale, Long Island. And he actually was he actually built the house up a little bit at a time. But he actually built that house. And the first name that came out was Walter. The woman at the end of the night, because I just used a regular SB7. And at the end of the night, she was like hugging me and kissing me. She goes, "Thank you. I never thought I'd hear from my father again. I never thought I would hear from them anymore." And the daughter's like, "Oh yeah, it was so great." They got comfort out of it, and that they actually heard their father or the grandfather's voice again. So I thought that was like, I left that place. I was feeling like, this is good. I felt so, justified.
You were the hero.
I felt, yeah, not a hero, but I felt that I was helping.
Yeah.
Helping. And then she wanted to buy SB7 and start doing it on her own, and everything. But it was interesting. It was a good night for me. So when you get nights like that, that's like the best.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
any investigation you've done, have you come across anything like that, or?
Well, just there's that that woman that I was telling you about, but nothing really. I haven't really had a lot of cases where there have been a lot of cases where things have appeared to be something, but they actually weren't. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, sure does.
yeah, so you have that like somebody will tell me like before we do an investigation, we always interview the client, and they have to answer a questionnaire, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she, this one person in particular said, yeah, like my I know it's my grandfather. My grandfather's here in the house and he's looking after us, but every now and again, like the door slams and I get afraid and I don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, when we did the investigation and we were doing the Estes method, something came through, and they were asking the questions. You're familiar with the Estes method, right? Like, so it's a
Of course,
double-blind
yes, sir.
experiment, and
Mm-hmm.
use the SB7, and one person has got earphones on and can't hear anything, and then a person's asking questions, and the person that's listening to the SB7 just shoots out answers to
Mm-hmm.
whatever they're hearing on the SB7.
Mm-hmm.
And so the grandfather's name came up, and then the name Peter came up, which had nothing to do with the grandfather at all. And it turns out that this Peter guy had the house before the grandfather had it, when we did our history of the house. And this Peter guy was impersonating the grandfather. And this Peter guy had a lot of issues with his like temper, and he ended up committing suicide in the house. And anyway, so this Peter guy was taking on the role of the grandfather. So the grandchildren thought that, oh, this is the grandfather, but it really wasn't. It was something else pretending to be the grandfather. And it turned out to be something very bad. So
Mm-hmm.
in a case like that, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful anyway what you're dealing with, and you have to make sure that what you're dealing with is actually, in fact, who you think it is, because as you both know, I'm sure there are things that can very easily pretend to be things that aren't actually what you're talking to,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They might come to you. I know I had cases where they come to you as like a little girl or something, a spirit of a little girl. And you're like, okay, it's a little girl. And it's not. I mean, they come to you as a child or as something that you feel comfortable with, because if they don't, you might not accept them as much. So if they come to you as something that's not, and then that's when they start getting a little more, later on, they start getting more
agitated.
agitated and start saying things or doing things or just hurting you, scratches, whatever, burns and everything like that. But they come to you as so you will start accepting them as a child or something that you're not going to be afraid of. If a little girl comes up to me in the street and says, "Hi," I'm not going to be afraid of. Now, a guy that's 6'5", so big, comes up to me and goes, "I'm going to back off a little bit." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" Yeah. So, they come to you as something so you accept them a lot easier. Then when they start getting your trust, and that's when they start using your trust against you. So I know people that have used. I know I'm gonna get slack on this. Some people have used Ouija boards. You got that? They draw them in as friendly, and then as you go on time and time again, that's when they start coming to you as a different entity, and they start doing things to you or whatever. But not in all cases. Ouija boards are still a good piece of equipment if you know how to use them correctly.
Look, Captain Howdy. Captain Howdy came in and was all ready to play.
Well, that's kind of a movie, but
But
where is that from, Captain Howdy? I recognize that for some reason.
The Exorcist had
Oh,
Captain
right.
and then that the demon Pazuzu.
Right.
But I mean, I have nothing. All the equipment that you use. What's your favorite piece of equipment that you use, and when you go on investigations?
Well, definitely the EVP recorder. I've had so much evidence from that. Compared to any other device, like I probably have, 10,000 times more evidence on that than I have anything else.
Yeah.
And it also it gives me the ability to to hear everything that's going on in a place, and not, it lets me take in the atmosphere as well. It's not intrusive. I do like the ghost box, but it has its place in an investigation. I don't agree with using it all the time because it's very evasive as far as the atmosphere goes. It's very loud, and I like to hear everything that's going on around me. But that's where the Estes method is great with the SB7, because you can be connected to that and not take away from what's going on around you.
Yeah. Tomorrow night I got an investigation, and I'm going to be using that. Well, it's a tour pretty much for the Morris County. They have in Morris County, New Jersey, they got a cultural center, and they're doing a tour there. So we're going there to show people around, and I'm going to be doing the SCs there tomorrow. But I do a wireless. I take a person and I put them in a different room, and I stay in one room with that person. Then I get another person and put it in another room. So I got two going on at the same time. I got two speakers in front of me that are wireless, and I got them coming talking, and I actually write down what I hear.
It's cool.
Of course, we're asking questions. And we were at the Chrysler Mansion where two spirits were arguing with each other. It was wild. One person on the third floor, one person in the basement. I was on the first floor, and they were like going back and forth with a conversation. And of course, I write it down, and that's what we've been doing on all the places we go. It's Maureen, I put on different things, and you read across. Sometimes it's like they're like talking to each other. It's like you don't exist.
Right.
So it's pretty cool how we do it like that. I like doing
That's
it like that. You know,
That's awesome.
so that's next time we go out, I'll go. Well, matter of fact, I did bring that to the Shanley, but I think we ran out of time. You know?
Yeah, it was
No.
fairly quick, wasn't it? But sorry, go ahead, Maureen.
I wasn't at that one, but we did it with Lourdes, and it was back and forth like that. It was really cool. It's cool to watch that.
Yeah, Lourdes and Kelly. Kelly was on one end and Lourdes on the other side. Yeah, but we didn't get a chance that night to do we were going to do it because everything else going on. We had a good night. The Shanley was a good night that night.
It was a great night, and I didn't even get a chance to get up to the bordello part that I really wanted to get up there, but by the time I had the opportunity to go up there, there was this bald guy sleeping, snoring. So I thought, I'll do it another time.
Wes, that's his room. Don't touch it.
Yeah.
I want to hear something. When I go to sleep in there, I shut the lights off, everything, and I got a camera still going. I have my my body cam still going. When I'm sleeping, just in case anything happens in there, I get a baby crying. And I was listening to it, and I'm like, that's interesting. My wife, because I was snoring, and I had my wife. I'm listening to this, and my wife's not into any of this stuff. But every so often, I'll just come in and listen to this, and she's like, I don't like that. I'm like, oh, come on. So I get her in, and she's listening to it, and you can hear me snoring. Then all of a sudden, you hear, like crying. And I was like, wow.
It's definitively a child crying. And you could have clipped that shorter so we didn't have to listen to you snore.
It was great. Can you do the crying again? I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Did you hear that night?
Maybe one of the women in the bordello had a child out of wedlock or something. Who knows, right?
There was a couple, and there's rumors that I remember when Sal owned it. There was rumors that
I believe that there are babies buried under that building.
Yeah,
is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, the basement was dirt at one time, and that's why I think. That's where they put the abortions.
I think it is still partly, as I remember, it was still partly dirt down there.
Yeah, it's not. It's mostly cement and everything. There's also walls down there where they say people were buried in. Because remember, it was the Irish mob back in the 20s.
Right.
So they did their things too. It's not only Italian mob.
Like what, Anthony? What would they do?
Huh?
Like what, Anthony? What would they do?
Yay! Some cannolis.
Yeah, the cannolis are amazing.
Cannolis.
I brought cannolis to Shanley, of course, and we had Penny and Rachel from England eat them, and they're like, "These are good." And you had one too, didn't you? Have a couple?
I might have had one or two or three or four.
I bought a dozen. Everybody's eating them like Tic Tacs. So they're coop.
Had they never had them before? Wait, are there cannolis in Canada?
No, we banished all the Italians in the 1980s. Yeah. No, of course. No,
Ireland got all the snakes out. Canada got all the Italians out.
Yeah, no, they did. I've had them before, but not that fresh. Like they were pretty tasty.
Yeah, I was making them on the way there. Hey,
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the girls ever have them before?
No,
I don't think so. I don't.
Yeah. Neither one said that neither one had them before. One's a vegan and one's a vegetarian too. So
That's right.
We
Yeah.
have a battle that goes on, Wes. We have to ask: cannolis or tiramisu?
Cannolis for sure. I don't like tiramisu at all.
See,
No, it's always the tiramisu.
Yeah,
even
no, I
Todd
don't.
in the audience, he betrayed me with not having cannolis the one time. He had the other stuff that we don't mention.
See, I got to it before Todd and Carmela had to ask. What they actually want to know, what's your dessert of choice?
I love creme brulee. That's like,
Oh, creme brulee.
yeah.
I'll take that as a close second.
Okay.
Second to cannolis.
We always go to dessert, even though we're talking about paranormal. I guess paranormal investigators love dessert.
Yeah, we all snack, don't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we're up late, so we go to these restaurants or stuff early in the morning,
Diners.
and we want something sugary to keep us going. You
That's
know?
right.
Yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. It's like get out coffee. I knew in Queens here, I could go out to eat 24 hours a day. There's something open. I could have stuff delivered at 2:00 in the morning to my house. I know
Wow.
everywhere else it's like 9:00, everything shuts down. I'm like, what the
Nothing's
hell?
open here past 8.
So I got to bring my own.
We're like, hurry up, we have to order. It's 7:30. We're not gonna get
Yeah.
We're
Let's order
closing soon.
something. Yeah.
I was in your neck of the woods there just on Sunday there. I was up to see the Yankees play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw the Yankees play the Dodgers. So it was kind of at the night after we did the investigation at Fort Mifflin. One of the Peaches invited me up to a game. They have season tickets, so it was nice to. I've never been to Yankee Stadium before. I couldn't get over how it was right in the middle of the Bronx, literally. And when you're walking around there, like as I say, being empathic, you can just feel the neighborhood, if that makes any sense. I mean, there's so much stuff going on, and I can only spend so much time in a city, and I just sensory overload, and I'm done. I have to get out. And that was one of those things. Even stadiums, like watching games and stuff like that, it's just I know what's going on around me. Like there's so much stuff, and you just got to kind of tune it out. But that takes a lot of work, tuning it out. So by the time the end of a game is, or I'm out of the city, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Anyone that gets like that has abilities. We just went to see the Rolling Stones, and they see, I think it was 82.5, and they had a big screen up. So where they were like sitting, or where they were performing, they blocked those seats off. So every seat was full besides that. It was completely sold out. And I got to say, Mick Jagger, for 80 years old, that dude can still move. So the moves like Jagger, they're right. He didn't stop the entire concert. And by the time it was like we were ready to leave, I was shaking because there were so many people and there was so much energy around me and everyone's emotion. It was just too much. Like, it was loud. It was raucous, the people and their energy. And it was like little kids. I mean, little kids. They knew the words too. So they were brought up right.
Well, back in the day, like the women, like in the first few rows of the concert, when they'd see the Stones, they'd be like throwing their underwear up on stage and stuff. Now they throw their Depends up on stage. So.
After they used.
Yeah, they probably did. It was tough.
Not coming out of them.
Oh my gosh, it was so bad. You should have seen some of the people in the tunnel. Oh, I've never seen so many people stumble around. And they weren't my age or younger.
Yeah, the old concerts. I miss those.
It was a really good concert. They put on a good concert.
How did it smell?
Skunky.
Okay. You didn't smell the old, marijuana smell, or?
Oh,
Yeah,
it was bad
I-
marijuana, so it was skunky.
yeah,
Okay.
the skunk smell now. I'm
It was
smelling that all over.
they were probably in their Depends.
Yeah. That's how they get them in. They're
Yeah,
all about
exactly.
such depends.
Probably, but they didn't do a lot of. People were trying to take in the craziest stuff too. They're trying to take in like full blown lawn chairs with them. They were taking in like a 6-pack of beer.
Wow.
Clear instructions right outside, and they were still trying to go for it.
Wow.
So we went from the paranormal into dessert into concerts.
Into concerts. Well, the
Matter of
concert
fact,
thing.
I worked at the Garden. I actually worked at the Garden. I used to get there early in the morning, like 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. And I was one of the electricians that worked there for a bit. And I used to do EVPs in the morning. I used to get stuff all the time. And it's weird because you're sitting up, because Al Shanny was on the top and we working the lights on the roof. I was all those fancy color lights that you see now. I was part of the crew that put them up. And so I used to get there early. So I always say get to work an hour early. I hate being a minute late. I always was always early. So I get there and nobody's there, and I'm just sitting. You can actually see shadows move from seat to seat. There's nobody around. You see something like stand up and walk down. And I got a couple EVPs. I was like sitting because I was sitting up where the media sits, all the newscasts and stuff, and you're looking down, and that's where they actually do, for sports and stuff like that. That's where all the news reporters sit and they talk and everything. So I used to sit there, and I'm like looking, and I'm like saying, "Oh shit, I gotta get to work. I have to get up to work now. It's getting late." So I'm like, shit, what? I said something about time. And I was doing an EVP. I forgot I was doing EVP at the time. And it said like 6:15. And I'm like, I was the only one sitting there. There's nobody around me. And I'm doing an EVP and it says 6:15. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, I played it back later. I heard 6:15, which.
You were at the stadium with Rain Man.
Yeah, by myself. I'm like,
Jeopardy. Yeah, Jeopardy. 7:30. 7:30.
yeah.
Jeopardy.
But it was interesting so the Garden does have a lot of activity going on at that,
I'm sure.
To kind of bring this full circle, a band that Jim Morrison, the Doors, he used to own a place in Scotland called the I want to trying to think of the name of the place, but it's like a manor house called Bolventer or something house. And that he bought that. The previous resident was a guy by the name of Aleister Crowley. I don't know
Get
if you're
out of
familiar with him.
here.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, and he owned that house after Crowley. And some of the experiences he had in there, you can look it up on Google. It actually burnt down, and they're in the process of rebuilding it right now. But I don't think they'll ever have paranormal investigations there. But that's where Aleister Crowley did. For those people who aren't familiar with him, he was kind of like a big time witch doctor, kind of like he so-called summoned the devil in that place.
Yeah, he was a Satanist, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
A Satanist. I think he wrote the Satanic Bible.
That's exactly right.
Alvey didn't it? Wasn't it something?
LaVey. LaVey changed Satanism. He made it more about like doing things for yourself, where I think Aleister Crowley was more about, wasn't he more about like sacrifices?
Yeah, it was very checkered, that's for sure. He did a lot of things that were kind of iffy. And I actually went to a place that he owned called the Cairn Cottage. If anybody gets a chance to Google it, it's Cairn, Cairn Cottage.
Mhm.
It's in Cornwall, England. And you'll see, if you Google it, you'll see some of the pictures of the place. I was there with Richard Estep back in 2020, I believe, and the place is just it made me sick just coming inside. When I got inside the place, it's very small,
Mhm.
but it was like I like to compare it to like it was um, like a whirlpool inside, because I felt like I was going around in circles and that there was some kind, like, I'm not a firm believer in vortexes or that kind of thing. But in there,
Mhm.
I felt like I was like being brought down in this pool, and I was getting nauseous because I was spinning.
Like stuck in a
And
tornado.
yeah, and I ran outside and I actually got physically ill. And and then I was outside for about a half an hour. Took a little walk around there because it's quite a place. It's on the moors there, which have a lot of old um, what are they? There's a name to them now, but there are all these like rocks that are coming out of the ground, and they used to do rituals there and that sort of thing, like the
Is
pagans
it
and
like monoliths? I think they're called monoliths.
yeah, there's a quoit. That's what it's called, a quoit. Um, and anyway, so I walked and I went to check out some of the quoits. It's very ancient. Like the quoits come from the time of Stonehenge.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of history there, and again, the feeling of the place is just incredible once I got outside of that house. But then I returned about a half an hour later, and the same thing. Got started getting ill again, and I couldn't stay in there any length of time. And that's happened to me about 3 or 4 times over the last 15 years, where I get physically ill at a place. But generally speaking, it passes. But this didn't pass. I kept on, every time I went back into the house, started to get ill again.
Mhm.
But it's a very interesting place. It's almost like when he left it there, like everything was left there. Like there was old bottles there, and there was actually, I think I don't know, somebody broke in there, and there was, one of the stars on the floor there.
Pentagram.
So a pentagram, yeah, thanks. Had a brain fart there. But yeah, it was incredible place too. But I just couldn't stay. And the property around it, as I said, like, it's just beautiful. It's all up on cliffs overlooking the ocean, and spectacular place. But yeah, if anybody hasn't heard of Aleister Crowley, they should check him out. Quite an interesting character for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
He
like
was.
to do our show as like an educational thing and kind of talk about things that people wouldn't really know about, or we've done the hoodoo compared to voodoo type of thing. I think it's important that people learn while we're doing this. It's not just for fun, but
Mhm.
he's definitely an interesting person.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's very interesting. Interesting to
It's
go
really,
doing that, do investigation in one of those locations too. You
yeah.
know.
I think it's
Absolutely.
interesting that you got really sick in there too, because just the energy of something can change your whole body makeup. I've only gotten sick in one place, and I wasn't sick at the time. Um, I felt really creeped out. As soon as I stood up, it was like projectile, and then I was fine.
Right. Yeah, it's
But it was,
almost like it affects your DNA. Like it's
yeah,
so weird. It's like you're, like kind of shifting. You're shifting. Like it's so hard to explain. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's such a weird sensation.
That's crazy. That's really, you know. So it's I don't know. It's getting late. Do you want to you going to doing anything lately soon or anything or? You want to
Well,
announce or you know?
looking forward to seeing you, my friend, at the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash.
Yes.
And Maureen, are you going?
I won't be there. We decided that we would be going to Key West with our kids on
Oh,
vacation. So this will
very
be the
nice.
first year that I haven't been there, unfortunately, but I will
Mhm.
miss everyone, and I'll have to meet you some other time, I guess.
There's a couple of great haunted locations in Key West too. Are you driving down or are you flying?
We drive down because we take the dogs. The kids would be flying down, and we meet them there.
Okay, well, if you ever get a chance I mean, this isn't near Key West, but it's in the Everglades. There's a place called Everglades City, and there's a place called Smallwood Store there that I've investigated. And it's been on several TV shows where this guy that owned the store would hire people, Seminole Indians as well, and he would employ them for a period of time, and then when it was time that he had to pay them, he would kill them rather than pay them. And they finally caught on to him, the local authorities, and they ended up killing him. And anyway, if you get a chance, Smallwood Store.
Okay.
And yeah, if you get a chance, really interesting location. You can still go there. It's now like an antique place. They've got incredible antiques, but they have a place that's devoted, like a place inside the store that's devoted to his story. And it's quite interesting. And if you do go there, it'll be interested to find out how you feel when you go there, because
Yeah, I'll let you know if we do stop. That
it's
would
a
be
very
really
powerful place. Yeah, it's called Everglades City, is where it's close to.
okay.
But yeah, give that place a shot. It's probably not on your way because it's on the kind of more on the Gulf side, but yeah, and
But when we go home, like we chose our places that we're stopping at on the way. So we're stopping in Charleston, and then we're going to stop in St. Augustine, and then we're going to go to Key West. So on the way home, we haven't chosen our stops yet. So we could go back up that way.
yeah. Well, let me know if you do. I know the person that runs the place very well, and I'll get you in there.
Oh, thanks. That would be great. We would love that.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure. So, and Key West is the whole place is haunted. Like
It is.
its history is crazy.
Yeah. We stopped to see Robert the doll, and I got my little mini Robert in my room here. We went to different places. We went on the tour in the trolley where everybody screams doom. And we went on like the little walking tour. So we've done a couple of things, but I can just walk by and just pick out that's haunted, that's haunted, that's haunted, that's haunted. We saw the little the graveyard of children. It was so depressing to see that. It was terrible. It's a really cool place, though. I love it there. Todd and Carmela said that they love Key West, too. RL, it's the first time he's asking questions. Medmenham? Have you ever been to Medmenham? It belonged to Sir Francis Dashwood.
Is that in Florida or?
No, I think it's in England.
What's the name of the town?
I don't think there was a town mentioned. Medmenham belonged to Sir Francis Dashwood. You may have heard of his group. He and his friends called themselves the Medmenham Franciscans. They may be better known as, the Hellfire Club.
Oh, yes, of course, yes. The Hellfire Caves, just outside of London. Yeah, that's an incredible place too. It's underneath a church, actually. Well, this specific, there was a lot of locations for the Hellfire Club. There was even some in Ireland as well.
Yeah.
But the place, I can't think of the name of the town, but there's this church, and they used to do their secret society meetings in the Hellfire Club underneath this church that was, I think it's down like 100 feet below the church, and you can actually go there and check it out, and it's yeah, pretty spooky. I've never been there actually myself, but I know a lot of people that have.
And they have the big gates, the big iron gates, and you kind of get. I think it was on like the TV show that we shall not name.
Right.
Um,
MH? Is that what you're talking about? The show
GA.
MH?
GA.
Oh, I don't think he can go across. I didn't think he could fly or anything.
I didn't think so either, but he was on that one.
I didn't know that. I didn't think they've ever been over there, but
Yeah, there were very few shows that he actually went across the pond.
oh, okay.
They partied with Benjamin Franklin there. I believe that Ben Franklin was quite the party man.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the most normal part of it. But the other things that happen there with women and children that I've heard were pretty disgusting.
Yeah, they're not great.
But,
so, are you're going to the bash? Do you have any other things that you're going to be doing? Are you going to any other events?
So yeah, so I'll have a table at the bash. I'm also they're going to do a celebrity bartending night where I'll be in competition with Dave Schrader and Mr. Cirillo.
That should be interesting. Now I wish I was definitely going to be there.
It'll be a lot of fun. I think, it's such a great time. The people that go, like Pam and Steve, are absolutely amazing people. The money that is, from the bash goes to the Wounded Warriors Association. There's also they have a Christmas in July theme that they did last year. It was so successful. We're going to do it again this year, where everybody brings an unwrapped toy for Dana's Pink Wishes, which is a charity for children who are afflicted with cancer, and it's just an incredible, and people, they all get along there. Like there's it's just one of those, and being, as I say, being empathic, I just feel this, like I meet really good people. Anthony, I met 3 years ago. It's just a great place, and people respect your opinion on whatever it is in the paranormal you believe in or whatever. And if they don't believe in what you do or how you do it, then they're not going to chastise you about it. They're just going to accept it.
Yeah. Well, last year, didn't you dress like an elf?
I did last year. Yes, I did. Yeah, it's
looking like an elf.
How did I miss that?
Yeah, it was that was on the Friday night. Yeah, I don't probably think I'll be doing that again, but I do have it was an interesting outfit. But the next night I was I had a suit that was like a Santa not a Santa suit, but a Christmas suit. It had a 2-piece jacket, and it was just a lot of fun, And this year
I had to take off. It was like it's you're in July, and I got this shirt on, Christmas shirt, and I'm sitting there drinking. I'm like, I got to change this thing. I'm sweating my ass off.
Yeah, it's not very comfortable to have Christmas stuff in July, but it's a great time anyway. It's a lot of fun, and then I'll be going to I'm going to be doing Mid-Orange Correctional Facility in August. And then I'll be at New Jersey Para-Unity in November.
I'll see you there.
And there are other different things in between too that I'll have to check my calendar. But just gonna enjoy this year.
Yeah,
that's all you can do.
Yeah, I'll probably be at a couple of events with you, so that'd be cool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I really had a good time, and when we did the Shanley and Mifflin, thought you're a really great guy, and I think that.
He fool you.
Beg your pardon?
I said, boy, did he fool you.
Yeah, well, he's pretty good with the cannolis, you know, slips one in your back pocket. He says,
That's how I get people to like me. I bring food.
Yeah, and then you're friends forever.
Yeah, friends for it was like a stray dog coming home with you. You feed them, they follow you home. You know?
Yeah, the gabagool.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great time at Shanley. We had a great time in Fort Mifflin. You know, we got stuff and, you know, just hanging out, talking. You know,
yeah,
we had a great time, and that's the best part about it. It's, you know, this community, you know, all the negativity, but there's such great things going on, and you can't focus. This is why I got to meet you. I got to meet the Lady Brits, you know, Penny and Rachel, and you know, just getting to meet people now, meeting people in other countries, and this is great. I thought this was fantastic, and now here you are on the show. Now you meet Maureen. You know, this is what it's all about. You know, we all get together, and this is the best part about the paranormal community.
That's how I met that guy.
Yeah, that's how she met me to get into in Gettysburg. So it's like how, you know,
and I feel like I really know Maureen's dog now too. It's great.
Yeah.
Everyone knows my dog.
Yeah, he's on the show
All
like
three
once, twice.
I'm very sorry about that.
We got to interview him. We got to get his own screen.
Yeah.
But
Someone's home now.
it's like, you know, that's how we met, and I thought, you know, I like you. You seem like you're a good guy to hang out with and stuff like that. You know.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
So, you know, well, if you weren't, you wouldn't be here right now. You know what I'm saying? I'd be.
Yeah.
You know, but,
well, I appreciate you having me on your show. I mean, it's been a great time getting to know you guys, and it's been an interesting talk.
Thanks for being with us, Wes. I know it's kind of all over the place, but one thing does lead to another somehow.
And then we come to the end somewhere.
Yeah.
And you're welcome anytime, obviously.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here. So.
Well, this is another Thursday night on Dimensions of the Supernatural from 7:30 to 9:30. You could catch us every week. And we will see you next time. I'm Maureen Grudzinski. This is, I never know which way, my co-host, Anthony Simonelli, and our great guest, WES COLEMAN from C.O.P.S. We'll see you next week. Anthony?
I just want to say, be safe out there. You want to look for ghosts. You don't want to be a ghost. And
hey, how you doing?
Catch you next time.
Okay, good night.